A beautiful house in the middle of nowhere. A couple returns from a wedding ceremony and calls it a night but are startled at midnight by 3 masked strangers. They have to fight to survive the night. Adding to it, the story is based on true happenings. A 911 call is made by a woman named Jordan who seems to be in tears and distress. She talks ambiguously and informs the 911 operator of people's presence. She doesn't know her location but knows she is in distress. A car's window is broken. 2 boys enter a house and find bullet shells, a ring box, rose petals, a shotgun on the kitchen counter, a blooded knife, and blood on the wall. At night, a car stops at a red signal. Inside the car are Kristen McKay and James Hoyt. James is staring at his girlfriend while a tear from Kristen's eye falls. The road is isolated and quiet. It is the night of February 11, 2005. They are returning home after attending a friend's wedding reception. It is an isolated summer home owned by James' family. Before they leave the venue, James proposes to Kristen. Kristen is not ready and turns down the marriage proposal. All the way home, the couple barely talked. On reaching home, they part ways. Kristen sees rose petals all over the place and that makes her feel bad. James calls his friend Mike but it goes straight to voicemail. He tells Mike about Kristen declining the proposal and that he should get James out as soon as he hears the voicemail. James is longing to get out of the place. While James is outside, Kristen is in the bathroom. She keeps thinking of what happened a few hours ago. After her bath, she joins James who is sitting in the dining room. Kristen appreciates the efforts put in by James. James insists that Kristen keeps the ring despite declining the proposal. She apologizes and says she is not ready. While they are having a moment, they hear a knock. The couple is startled as it is uncommon for someone to knock at the door at 4 a.m., but James still opens the door. He sees a young blonde girl who is asking for her friend Tamara. James tells her she got the wrong house and the girl walks away. James and Kristen could not see her face as the door light stopped working. After the girl leaves, James fixes the door light while discussing about the mysterious girl. They both enter the house and sit apart with a thick awkward silence among them. After a while, Kristen informs James that the cigarettes are over. James thinks it's her way of saying she needed more and he decides to head out to get some. Before James leaves, he lights the fireplace and also cancels the road trip the couple was going to take. He informs her that Mike would pick him up tomorrow. After making sure everything is okay, James leaves. He drinks at first and then gets into his car and exits the premise. Buying cigarettes was just an excuse. He only wants some time away from Kristen to get his mind off things that happen. With Kristen at home alone, she puts on some music and fidgets with the proposal ring. She keeps thinking about the proposal and crying on the inside. Soon she hears a thud on the main door followed by another. Without opening the door, she calls out to the person outside. The woman on the other side asks if Tamara is home. Kristen tells her that she has been here before. The woman questions Kristen before walking away. It is the same blonde woman the couple had met the first time they heard the knock. To be cautious, Kristen locks the door. When she walks away from the door, she hears the wind chimes from outside. She looks through the window and finds no one. When she sees the fireplace emitting too much smoke, she tries to get the smoke out as she realizes that the fireplace is blocked. The smoke alarm goes off soon after and she pulls it off the ceiling, which results in it clattering on the floor. As soon as it clatters, there is a thud on the main door again. It is followed by a series of knocks. The wind chimes are heard too. Kristen is now scared and unnerved. She picks up her phone and tries to call for help but finds out that her battery is dead. She quickly finds her charger and puts her phone on charging. Next, she heads to their bedroom where she finds the landline. She calls James and tells him how the blonde girl came back and asks him to return home soon, while looking out of the window to find someone or something out of its place. She changes her clothes into jeans and a flannel shirt. While talking to James and asking him to stay on the line, the phone line goes dead. She starts to smoke a cigarette to calm her nerves. Kristen also gets a glass of water for herself, unknown by the fact that a masked man is standing right at the corner of the room and staring at her every movement. She looks out of the window to keep an eye, but when she turns around, the masked man disappears. From the same room, she hears a voice. Not wanting to take a chance, she grabs a kitchen knife and heads towards the room but stops and tries to use the landline to call for help. She hears a knock again. There she sees that the smoke alarm that was previously lying on the floor is now kept neatly in the center of the dining room chair. Extremely petrified now, she runs to grab her phone that was kept on charge only to find it missing. Kristen is now in tears while the knocks continued. She hears something hitting the wind chime. It is followed by a dragging noise on the back patio. Feeling confident with the knife in her hand, she walks towards the sliding glass door. There, she pulls the curtains and finds a masked man standing there. He slams his hand on the window. Kristen screams in horror and starts to back away from the sliding door. In the process, she collides with the chairs of the dining table. She also collides with the phonograph, which leads to her knocking the needle off the track and the music starts to play again. She now hears slams from the sliding window as well as from the door. Kristen is standing right in front of the main door when she sees it open on its own. She goes near the door and peeks from the gap only to find another masked man at the door. This time, it is a doll-like mask. In horror, she shuts the door and runs to the bedroom. At first, she hides under the bed but comes out and yells to the strangers to go away. She picks up the lamp by the bed and switches it off. Next, she stares at the open bedroom door and holds her knife near her with shaky hands. Suddenly, the vinyl album stops and she hears footsteps coming her way. It is James. Kristen sighs in relief while James is worried when he sees Kristen's condition. James does not know about anything that is happening in and around the house. He hurriedly rushes to her and asks her to explain what happened. While Kristen narrates everything, she shuts the bedroom door and places a chair in front of it. Her hand is bleeding because of the lamp. James decides to go outside and look around to see something or someone peculiar. He grabs the same kitchen knife that Kristen brought to protect herself. She pleads to James and asks him not to go outside, but James does not listen to her. While James is looking around, Kristen follows him. In the beginning, she is a little scared, but after following James throughout the house and finding nothing, she is confused. Both miss the fact that Kristen's phone is thrown in the fireplace by someone. James initially thinks Kristen let her imagination get to her. Kristen looks through the window and finds the blonde woman wearing a dollface mask and standing in the backyard at a distance. She is staring at the house attentively. Kristen insists they call the police, but James thinks she wants to talk to them as if she wanted to hurt them. She would not stare at the house like that. James decides to go out and retrieve his phone, but Kristen declines it. She argues that one of the masked people took her phone, but her talks fall on deaf ears. James goes outside to retrieve his phone from the car. Kristen is right at the main door to keep an eye on the surroundings. There, he finds his car extremely vandalized. He looks around to find his phone but does not see it anywhere. While he is too engrossed in finding his phone, Dollface touches the back of the neck and startles James before running away. James points the knife and gets out of the car hurriedly. He does not see anyone but hears noises from around. He shuts the car door and finds Dollface at a distance. He asks what she wants before ordering her to leave. While ordering, he walks closer to her. He also sees someone else running from beside him in the dark and turns around when Kristen calls him. James asks her to go back inside when he hears another voice from the woods. Looking back, Dollface has disappeared. After looking around, James heads back to the house. He asks Kristen to pack her things and find her phone. Kristen tries to explain, but James grabs her injured hand and looks at it. After tying a black cloth around the wound, James finds his cell phone on the piano with the battery removed. The couple leaves immediately. When they are reversing their car, another car comes in and bangs their car. A masked man is standing right in front of the car. James gets out immediately and he, along with Kristen, runs inside the house. James finds a shotgun and they decide to head to the bedroom. When they enter, they see the word hello written all over the bedroom in red paint. James starts to look in and around the room to see if someone is hiding inside. The strangers start to shoot at the window and James runs inside the closet to find the shells. He finds them, but he does not know how to load them. They reach the front door. James plans to open the door and run as fast as they can, but before he could do anything, a masked man begins to break through the door with an axe. They both push the piano and place it in front of the door. James throws chairs at the door before shooting in the direction but misses. They enter a room in the hallway and hide. James has the gun armed and pointed towards the door. While he is ready, they hear the music from the front room. Mike, James' friend, reaches their house. He was the one James called in the beginning. While he tries to call James, a rock is thrown on his windshield. He gets scared and gets out of the car. Next, he slowly approaches the house and hears country music playing loudly. Just to be safe, he grabs a rod and starts to call out the couple's names. Mike then enters through the black glass door. Dollface emerges from the shadows and stands behind him. He finds broken glass on the floor with the music player in the front. He proceeds to walk inside the house towards the rooms. A masked man is right behind Mike with his axe ready to strike. Just as the music gets over, Mike steps in the doorway and James fires the gun. The bullet hits Mike in the head. He dies instantly. James throws the gun away thinking he has eliminated the masked man, but after thinking, he realizes that the man was not wearing a mask. He decides to check on the person and finds Mike there. He tells Kristen about it too and the couple is devastated. They both come back to the main room where they find the word killer on the window to mock James. James thinks Kristen should run to the barn and call for help, but she disagrees. He then heads to the barn instead to use the ham radio for help. There, he spots Pinup Girl emerging from behind the barn. He takes his position and is ready to shoot her when he hears someone's footsteps from behind him. When he turns around, he sees the masked man running up to him at full speed. Kristen, who is still inside the house, hears the gun go off. She does not know what to do and so she decides to check on James. She calls for him but soon senses the masked man's presence. While running away from the masked man into the woods, Kristen falls and twists her ankle. She reaches the barn and looks around, unknown by the fact that Pinup Girl is following her. Kristen soon finds the radio and starts to fiddle with it. She hears voices and tries to hide while trying to call for help, but Pinup Girl finds her and shoots at her. The radio is destroyed. Kristen crawls back into the house. On the way, she spots the masked man who is standing and looking around, and Dollface who is on the swing set in the backyard. She tries to find James inside the house but fails to do so. The lights go out and the masked man enters. Kristen hides inside the pantry while the masked man is in the living room. He sits around for a while and leaves. Kristen thinks it is safe to get out, and as soon as she is about to step out, Dollface appears in the door's slit shutters and smashes it through. Kristen keeps screaming in horror. Dollface stops. When Kristen comes out of the pantry, she sees Dollface holding the engagement ring. Dollface looks at her and mocks her by spinning a butcher knife around the counter. She slowly walks towards her. The masked man enters the house while holding James by his shirt collar. Kristen quickly runs away and enters the bedroom. She heads towards the window and tries to open it, but they don't. The door to the bedroom opens and the lights come back. Kristen slowly creeps back to the hallway, and before she takes a step forward, the masked man attacks her and pushes her into the wall. He slams her head and drags her to the hall. She is partially conscious and tries to get herself freed but loses consciousness. In the daylight, James and Kristen find themselves tied to the chair with the masked man, Dollface, and pin-up girl standing right in front of them. Kristen has been changed and she is back in her white gown. When Kristen questions why the three strangers were doing what they were doing, Dollface answers emotionlessly, "Because you were home." The couple tries to remove the ropes from their bodies, but to no avail. Kristen has her engagement ring in her hand and the couple holds hands while dreading what is to come. The three intruders remove their masks, but their faces are not shown. They take turns stabbing Kristen and James and leave in their pickup truck. After driving away, they come across two young boys on bicycles. They are distributing religious tracts. Dollface gets down and asks if she could get a pamphlet. One of the boys asks whether she is a sinner. Dollface answers sometimes. They hand her a pamphlet and the trio drive away. Pin-up girl says it will be easier next time. The boys reach the house and enter to see the bloody scene. James is on the floor dead while Kristen is in the hallway. She is trying to crawl her way to James. When one of the boys approaches Kristen, she grabs his arm and screams.